Hi guys, and welcome to the show, and today we're doing a very special duel. This time we're including 3 watches in a duel, something I haven't done before, but as the SARB here has featured in a duel before and we already know its scores and I've imported them into today's chart here, I didn't feel that, you know, to do another 2 duels with these new arrivals would be a bit over the top, so I thought I'd just include it in today's duel, and really it's a good way of measuring up how the 2 newcomers score compared to one of my favorite keepers in my collection, the SARB033. Now these 2 are new arrivals. One is of course Swiss for about $1,000, or around just over $1,000, and this of course is the Orient Star, which retails about $700, but I actually got this at a sale at Long Island Watches for $400, which is an amazing deal. I'm not sure if you can still pick these up, but you can basically pick these up for around about $500, and I have stated this is probably these 2 here, I would say, are 2 of the best dress watches you can get for under $500. Now they are all of course dress watches, they are all in the mid-size, so I think it's gonna be a really interesting comparison here. So let's dive in and talk about the first thing on our score chart, which of course is the value. No surprise that the SARB got a 10 out of 10. This is a made in Japan domestic release, extremely high quality. You're basically getting the craftsmanship and quality of a Grand Seiko, but without the very expensive movement, which keeps the cost down, but you're getting a very, I would say, a luxury quality watch for under $500, which is amazing. Made in Japan, unbelievable quality. So the value, of course, 10 out of 10. The Oris Artix gets a solid 8. It's a lot more money. You're spending over $1,000, but of course the quality is up there. So you know, it kind of, I think a solid 8 is basically a well-deserved 8. It would have got more if it included some a higher quality movement, but I think the Sellita SW200 is reasonable for what you pay for this. So then we have the Orient Star, of course, another 10 out of 10. This is the cheapest watch here. It looks like a very expensive watch, and ironically it probably looks the most expensive out of the 3, but ironically it's the cheapest. So I think, you know, in-house, very well constructed, you know, 10 out of 10. I can't really ask for more. I mean, if it was any cheaper, I'd start, you know, having doubts if it's even real. It's just unbelievable value, so 10 out of 10 here. Let's move down to design. Now, as you see, 9s across the board. Well, the design, we're talking about how its design affects its function and vice versa. So I think 9s all round. We have 3 very different designs. We have, you know, the Orient is very retro, yet it's very functional. We have a power reserve, really nicely laid out. This panpipe dial, as one of the viewers says, it's very hard to do, so quite expensive to manufacture. So it's you know, the thought and care that's gone into the design is really high. Again, you know, even though it's completely different, these 2 are much more modern, but I think their design are equally as beautiful. It's rare that I've seen 3 watches that are just so beautifully designed, and yet similar in many ways, but at the same time very different. You know, here we've got this beautiful hidden bezel, which I've never seen on a dress watch before, which is extremely useful. And then of course the Seiko here has a massive influence from the Grand Seiko line, and actually this has been mistaken for Grand Seiko on several occasions. So the design really is on all of them is just impeccable, and I think 9's really all round. So moving down. Now this is a slightly more controversial area, because when we discuss in-house movements, we do get in a bit of a pickle. Now this is an in-house movement from the Seiko. We have this is the 6R15C. In my opinion, I think it's the most accurate out of the bunch, and therefore I give it a 10 out of 10. Also, it's quite nice to look at. It hasn't been overly decorated. There are, you know, slight kind of little kind of different polishings, but it is very nice. It's very satisfying to look at. It hasn't been tarted up too much. At the same time, there is things going on. There are more layers. If we compare it to let's compare it to the Orient very quickly. The Orient is a little plain Jane, even though they have taken the time to sign in gold there. But it's just a matter of taste. In my personal opinion, I think the Seiko is just nicer to look at. But, you know, 10 out of 10, obviously the most accurate. Now these two, I think the Oris gets the lowest mark here of a 7. It's a Sellita SW200, which, in my opinion, I'm not overly fond of. It's a very good, accurate movement, but it's not in-house like the two Japanese watches here. So it really kind of falls behind in the markers. Maybe I was a little bit harsh with the 7 here, but it does have that iconic Oris red rotor, which is really nice. But, you know, it is just a standard Sellita SW200, nothing really special. So a 7, I think. With the Orient, you know, we're getting an in-house movement, a little bit plain Jane on the back, but, you know, they have put some effort into and decorated it slightly. So it is quite nice. It's just not the most beautiful thing to look at in the world, but it is very reliable. It is in-house, and I think an 8 is well deserved. So let's move on. Brand prestige. This is a bit difficult because, you know, we've got one of the most well-known big boy brands here, the Seiko. Its prestige is so many firsts in the watch world, so many technical achievements. It's just, I mean, maybe it should have got a 10, but I think a 9 is fine, because at the end of the day, Seiko are, even though they do have their Grand Seiko luxury line, they're not, you know, they're not the best, but at the same time they have a long history, and I think a 9 is well deserved. Just slightly below is Oris. Oris is a brand, you know, they're over 100 years. They're an independent brand. I respect them. They've done so many achievements in the last few years. The innovation with the depth gauge, and there's a lot of firsts, you know, and also their aviation piece that has an altimeter in it. It's just, you know, a lot of technical achievements in the last few years. So a very solid 8. You know, I really do love the Oris brand, very strong brand. Orient coming in at 7. They are the newest brand here. I believe they're a subsidiary of Seiko. I can't remember exactly. I think they're owned by the same people. But anyway, the new kid on the block here compared to the others, and so a 7. I think it's well deserved. It's still high, you know. They are building their legacy, so they're in the process of building their legacy, and I think a 7 is fair. So moving on, quality. Now this is an interesting one. Now it's no surprise that the Seiko gets a 10 out of 10. It really is Grand Seiko quality at a very affordable price, without the Grand Seiko the expense of having a Grand Seiko movement. So 10 out of 10. I mean, this watch, I mean, I've worn the hell out of it, and it still stood the test of time. There's a little bit scratches and dirt here and there, but generally the quality is second to none. Out of the 3, if you were holding these 3, you'd feel it. The way that it winds, the way it behaves, the quality of the polishing, the everything, absolutely impeccable. So 10 out of 10. The Oris, again, here, this is the only Swiss piece in the trio. Again, very high. I almost gave it a 10. I think the Seiko just has a slight edge. You are getting a Swiss luxury quality watch when you buy this, for the money. You know, the polishing, everything is just impeccably done. I think a very, very solid 9, almost a 10. It's almost perfect in quality. But anyway, so there we go. The Orient, I think a very just gets into the 8. I think the quality, it is impeccable. It is very well made, very well, the craftsmanship and everything. But it, compared to these two, it just lags a little bit behind. It doesn't have the weight and the you know, when you wind it or you're setting the time, you know, it is a little bit more on the lighter side. Not saying that the weight equates to quality, but you do feel it. You do feel it. It doesn't feel the same quality as these two. Maybe if I was judging it on its own, I'd give it higher marks. But I think because we're comparing it, because it's a comparative review, I think it gets a strong 8. But very strong all the same. So let's move on. Style. Okay, now style, we're talking just aesthetics here. We're not talking about how it affects function, which is more design. Now the style here, of course, it's going to be slight, you know, it's always going to be subjective and a matter of personal taste. But here the Seiko, I think, lags a little bit behind because it is very, very conservative. Now the advantage of a conservative design like this is that of course it's always going to be desirable for a lot longer. It's going to age well, but it doesn't have any kind of stylistic flair. It treads a very kind of careful path. It doesn't do anything, you know, new or risky or anything like that. So I think a strong 8. But having said that, what it does do, it does very, very well. And you have some beautiful little stylistic touches like this needle style second hand, these sword hands, this beautiful dial, the little second markers around the outer, the chapter ring there. It is stylistically beautiful. It's just very conservative, so a solid 8. For the Oris, I think we go for a 9. This is stylistically, I think this is probably the most interesting out of the 3. It has this beautiful ceramic bezel that really plays with the light. I'm not sure if you can see on the dial, but the actual hour markers are slightly sunken. There's a little track running around the dial. They've bothered to put some kind of layering on the different layers on the dial. So it's a very interesting design. And I do like it, and of course you've got the red rotor, so a very solid 9. This is definitely probably the most interesting stylistically out of the 3. It is very, very stylish. It's modern yet not garish, which is a very difficult thing to pull off. The Orient here, again 9, because we have a lot of effort has gone into the design and layout of this dial. We have this panpipe dial, which, as a viewer so rightly said, it's quite an expensive thing to manufacture. So I do appreciate the amount of detail and quality of this dial. Stylistically, obviously, it's the most retro out of the 3. Very kind of 70s-esque. Probably going to be the more divisive out of the 3. But it is a very classic design, and it will stand the test of time. It's already stood the test of time since the 70s. So I think a really solid 9. The Oris and the Orient definitely have just a slightly more kind of stylistically, just a slightly more leg up over the Seiko. Okay, next we're looking at versatility. So how versatile are the pieces? Well, the Orient Star and the Seiko score 7s here. They will both work on a variety of different bands. Probably not NATO straps. I think they're a little bit too dressy for NATO straps, even though I have seen them on NATO straps. Personally, I wouldn't do that. I think they're just a bit too dressy for a NATO strap. But, you know, I don't make the rules. You can do whatever you want if you want it on a NATO strap. I'm sure they'll look fantastic, but they are not the most versatile pieces. They're dress watches. They might not go with every single outfit. You know, they haven't got the versatility of, let's say, a sports watch or a diver watch. So I think 7s is a fair mark for them. They do work better with straps, and so you're not going to have as many options. I think the Oris here gets the highest mark for 8 because with its modern design and its kind of nod to the sports genre with this bezel and the fact it's the most waterproof out of all of them, it definitely works with pretty much everything. You could put a steel mesh band on this, you could put different bracelets on leather, on NATO straps. I think it's definitely the most versatile piece here, so a solid 8 there. Moving on, performance. Now again, I've mentioned that the Seiko is the most accurate. I haven't tested the Oris out yet, but I am very familiar with the SW200 movement, so I gave it a solid 8. The Seiko comes out on top. It's the most accurate, very easy. The quality of the crown, setting the date, it performs amazingly. This movement really is. I do love this movement. So a very solid 9. The Orient, I think, kind of falls down here a little bit. The rotor is a bit noisy. You can, when it's on the wrist, you do kind of feel it going around. When you disengage the crown, or when you pull out the crown, and it does feel a little bit tinny compared to the other two. Also the performance, I feel that I haven't done a proper test, but it does have that power reserve, which is a nice feature, but performance wise it's probably the weakest out of the 3. And just to finish off, we'll mention the Oris here. The SW200, I do like that movement. I think its power reserve is a little bit weak. Sometimes it can not get the full charge. I have had problems with the Celita movements, in particular watch winders. So it is a bit of a kind of finicky thing, but I think at the end of the day it is very accurate. It's more accurate than its ETA counterparts, so I think a solid 8 is well deserved. Okay, so moving on, durability. Now you'll notice a huge discrepancy here. Now this is for quite good reason. The Orient gets a 6. Why? Well, doesn't have sapphire like the other two on the glass. Also the crystal, if we just look at the profile view, the crystal sticks out the most. I am quite conscious when I'm wearing this. I'm kind of babying it a little bit. So, it's not the most robust whatsoever. Oris has a screw down crown and it's water resistant to 100 meters, so you could in theory go in the swimming pool with this. However, with the two Japanese watches here, I wouldn't go in nowhere near a swimming pool, and I'd definitely take the Orient off if I was doing the washing up. They are of course dress watches, so there's no surprise, but the Oris wins here quite easily because it has got kind of a lot of features that a sports watch would have, with the higher water resistance and so on, and the screw down crown, so it is a much more durable piece. Also we have sapphire glass on the front, and of course a ceramic bezel, so it is quite a tough cookie for a dress watch. The Seiko getting a solid kind of 7 here. It's kind of somewhere in between these two really, so hence the 7. Okay, lastly, X Factor. Now the Orient and the Oris both get 8s. They both have very kind of, we'll talk about the Oris first. Its appeal is very strong. I think a well-deserved 8. It's very unique. I haven't seen a watch like this. It does have something special. It does get attention. It's flashy, but yet understated. It's a very difficult thing to pull off, but the Oris have really hit a home run with this design, and it does have something special, and you can really bring it alive with different straps and just the way it plays with light. It definitely has something special about it. It's not a 9 or a 10 where we're talking Submariners and Speedmasters that have that kind of iconic thing. It hasn't got that quality, but it is approaching that. It is an amazing, it really is a fantastic little watch. So I think a solid 8. The Orient, again, another 8. A totally different design, a totally different kind of style, aesthetic, but but I think equally has an X factor because it has that retro styling, that nod to such a iconic cool age of the 70s, and it does it very, very well. It kind of just sticks with a very traditional design. But for that I give it a solid 8 because it does look a lot more expensive than it actually is, and I think that is probably its X factor. The Seiko, I think, gets a 7 here, basically because its X factor is kind of hidden away. It takes a while to appreciate this watch, because just looking at it on the wrist or in passing, it doesn't seem that special. It's not until you really get to know the watch you really appreciate what a masterpiece it really is. So for that reason it only gets a 7. It is still a 7 though, but that X factor is kind of hidden a bit. It's a very conservative, very kind of understated classic design. So it's not really about the X factor, even though it has kind of still got that X factor. If that even makes sense. But anyway, so let's look at the final scores. No surprise, the Seiko gets the highest and remains the leader of the pack here at 86. In second place we have the Swiss entry Oris Artix date in mid-size, and then lastly the Orient Star. Rather disappointing actually, because actually to be honest, it's probably my favorite of the bunch, but when you do break it down, its features, this is the score. So it's very interesting. It is. I feel that these 3 watches in my collection, there is a lot of overlap here, so I think this has really helped me understand. But anyway, 3 absolute stunners. You know, if you're looking for a mid-size, understated yet classy dress watch, you can't go wrong with one of these. These are absolutely stunning. So anyway guys, so quite an interesting result. Let me know what you think. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Okay guys, I'll leave it there. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Okay, ciao.